Okay, guys. As far as injuries, these are projected. We haven't practiced yet. Guys that will not participate: Alaric Jackson, Joe Noteboom, Kyron Williams, Dez Johnson, Christian Roseboom, and then Cooper, O'Shawn, and Ben will be limited. He's going to go through practice today. We're going to see exactly what that looks like, but it says limited. He's not going to be limited. I mean, so I just read, I was like Ron Burgundy just reading off the damn injury report. So he's going through a normal practice. We'll see how he's feeling, and, we'll progress him as the week goes.
What's your conversation been like with him about what checkpoints, what check-ins you guys need to have?
I think playing football is the best checkpoint. Getting out into some practice settings where guys are leaning on him, being able to work some of the things that end up coming up. He's put in a lot of work behind the scenes with Reggie and his group, to be able to rehab and get himself to where he's feeling good. And like we talked about last week, he said he's feeling really good. I trust him. He's a guy that really knows his body really well, very experienced player. And so there'll be an ongoing dialogue. We want to be smart as we kind of ramp up his workload throughout the course of the week with, the goal of him being ready to go. And we'll see exactly what that looks like as the week progresses.
What do you see from him today, first action?
I just want to see him, play the way that, I've heard, and you guys have heard me reference this before. I think Neil Elitrosh has a great way of saying it, when guys are coming off of, injuries or some setbacks, there's a difference between returning to play and returning to performance. And we want to see him be able to return to performance, look like the Cooper Kupp that we know, and, it'll be good to have him out there.
Sean, what's the challenge for you and your staff when you're kind of mid-evaluating a player like that as you game plan?
I think that, that's just part of it, and that's a positive thing for us, Kurt. When you really look at it, there's always adjusting and adapting and having to have contingency plans based on whether that's in a game, throughout the course of the week. And so for us, it's about, all right, well, let's see, this part of the game plan where we emphasize, kind of your early down parts of the game plan. Let's see what we think is the best way. If he's able to go to utilize him, if he's not, who are those people that would supplement those roles, or what does it look like in the previous weeks? And then we'll see how today goes, and then that'll give us a better idea of what it looks like as we incrementally put in the game plan throughout the course of the week.
You mentioned Kyron. Do you expect him to
I do. He'll be good. He got on that first touchdown run. He took a good shot, in his hip, and so we're just being smart with him. He just took part in the walkthrough, and so it's more precautionary than anything.
How's Stafford doing? I know he's not listed here.
He's full. Yep, he is. He's as tough as it gets. You know that, Gary, and so. We're not going to be running a lot of zone read or anything like that today, so he'll be in good shape. But there was some good swelling. Fortunately, they were able to kind of just get some, some treatment and some things, to try to decrease the swelling and minimize that, right after the game. And, and he does such a great job of taking care of himself and doing a lot of things at home as well. So he is, I think feeling good would be a strong way to describe it, but he's able to, go through and be a full participant, which is a good thing for us.
What's the situation with Joe Noteboom?
He got his groin a little bit the other day, and so he was, he came out for, he's quickly going to come out, and then he ends up returning. So we're just really seeing it's another one of those kind of soft tissue things. Joe has done a good job of really pushing through a lot of just different little things that have been kind of irritants, Maria, if you will. But it's his groin.
There's a different thing that's popped up for him. Like, how cautious do you feel like you have to be just to make sure nothing escalates?
Well, you want to be careful, but you also know that this guy he's put a lot of work in at him. He's done a lot of things to, be able to play at multiple spots for us, start and be a big-time contributor. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I think it's more, sometimes it's just some unfortunate luck with some of these different things that he's had to work through. But I've been proud of Joe.
Stop the Eagles tush push.
I'd like to, you tell me. I mean, I don't know that anybody has an answer. I think when you look at it, the execution that they have, and going back years, with Coach Stoutland, he even got there with Coach Kelly. The emphasis of that, their personnel, then their execution of the techniques, and just being able to win that leverage and be able to get that push. It's incredible, and then when you see a lot of teams try to replicate it around the league, it doesn't look anything like that. And so I think it's a huge credit to those guys, their commitment to it. They pick and choose their spots when they have some complementary mixers off of that, but it's one of those deals that you give a tremendous amount of credit to, number one, their players for being able to execute it, but also the buy-in to continuously activating that and, the finer details with the techniques, the fundamentals, where it comes to life on the tape, it seems like week in and week out.
A copycat league. Have you ever considered installing that into your game?
Yeah, did you see the Seattle play? We tried it. It didn't look very good. That's why we had to go for it on 4th and 1. We tried it on 2nd down. It looked nothing like Phillies. So, we got some other things maybe we'll try.
I know it's not a problem, or you would call it a champagne problem, but
there you go, Gary. All right.
With all that Puka has been able to do early on here, and now Cooper coming back into the fold.
Yep.
How do you manage those two and Van and Tutu and everyone else?
Yeah, I think you do what you think is best, and I think, it just so happens that there's been a lot of situations where he's been, high and kind of, some of the progressions for Matthew, and he's been able to deliver in a big way. And so I think you credit Matthew, you think you credit Puka for being able to deliver on those things. But, there's certain instances where it's good to be able to get a lot of different people involved and making sure that, they got to be able to defend, the field in a different variety of ways. And I think you look at their offense, they do a great job of being able to get 2 premier receivers involved. They've got an excellent tight end in Goddard. They've got backs that can be big parts of the game plan. Quez Watkins makes his plays as well. So, like you've heard me say before, it's awesome to be able to have a guy that's gotten, some of the production that he has, but I also think it's great to be able to have multiple people that can be able to make their plays, and you want to be able to make people defend all 5 eligibles, and that's usually when, offenses are toughest to defend, and that's obviously what we're striving for.
What is he personally done to put himself in a position now?
Conscientious, he asks all the right questions. The amount of time that he spends, whether it's picking Cooper's brain, spending time with guys that have done it, asking coaches with Matthew, really quick study, really conscientious guy. I think he's got a great feel for the game. I think that's one of the things that's consistent with any of these guys that have that production or that early maturity, Lindsay, especially a rookie like him. There's a really good feel. There's a toughness. There's an ability to make contested catches. And so he's illustrated all those things. And I think what's been as impressive as anything, too, is if you look at the different ways that he's contributing in the run game, whether it's blocking defensive ends, blocking, safeties and support. He's been a huge factor in that for us as well, not exclusive to making 3rd down catches or some of those plays that you guys saw last week in the play action game. But it's just been really good, consistent production. He's got such a great humility about himself where nothing has changed in terms of his disposition and demeanor. You can even just see when you look at it, I mentioned it the other day, when he comes in the locker room and he gets a game ball, how happy his teammates genuinely are for him because of the type of guy he is. And he's going to continue to work. He's going to continue to get better, and we're glad he's on our team. See a great player. I see an incredible leader. I've always had such respect for him from afar, just watching the way he handled himself, as a man and as a person, number one. And then you see a guy that's committed to his craft, being able to play the position, exhaust progressions in the pocket, being able to keep his eyes downfield as he escapes. He's got a great rapport with his receivers when his things go off schedule, and then he's obviously an excellent runner of the football. They do such a good job of being able to change the math at the point of attack. He's one of those guys that he elevates people that are around him. It's why you hear his teammates, his coaches speak of him the way that they do. And we'll do our best to try to slow him down, but he's a great competitor, a great player.
You alluded to this Monday and having multiple receivers who can do multiple things, but specifically when it comes to Cooper and Puka, Cooper's usually been the early reading the progression, some of the option stuff. So when you have Puka, who's now gotten accustomed to playing that role, on the coaching side, on the schematic planning side,
Yeah.
how do you guys sort of open up the toolbox in that regard to not take away from what Cooper can do, but also understanding what Cooper can also do in that early read?
I think it's a balance. I think there's always an element of, okay, what do we want to be able to live in? When are those situations coming up that we want to activate those types of plays? What type of structures are we anticipating to attack? And so there's a lot of layers, but I think it's kind of deciding on, I think the first part of it is that's a good thing. Let's see how today goes, and let's see if we're able to continuously build and, how big, how much we're going to be able to utilize Cooper based on, what he's feeling like. But, I've been in situations, whether you go back to Washington or I could go on, throughout, the 7 years, is this being year 7 of guys that can do similar things, but when you're in a good position to be able to, bring to life some of those skill sets. And I think it is good for guys to have complementary skill sets, which I think those two do of one another as well. But you look at it and it's a fun thing to be able to kind of work through.
The Eagles' depth on their roster is something that's really impressive in terms of over the years they've been really good the whole time you've been here. Does that stand out to you? And is that something like the Rams aspire to?
Yeah, it's really impressive, Greg. I think you look at it, I think Howie does an excellent job of, continuously having creative avenues of onboarding players, keeping great players signed in-house. They've done a great job of being able to creatively utilize draft capital, whether it be moving up and things like that. And so you give them a ton of credit, and how quickly they've been able to, say, all right, when you look at when they went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago in 17, and then, you look at their last appearance when they actually end up winning it, and then they end up being able to finish the job, and get there again last year. It's really impressive, just watching what they've done. And there's still some, consistent, guys that have been their core pillars, if you will, but they've also done a great job of building around those guys. And, you give them a ton of credit. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.